for coming. Delighted to be here in this wonderful place. I know we only have 15 minutes, I think it is, so I'm going to be brief, but I want to introduce you really to a journey of exploration that we've been on at Elsevier, which is to explore how we can use generative AI and potentially agentic AI to help universities not only understand the impact of their research, but also to communicate it. And we've been working in collaboration with a number of development partners over the last year to bring this concept to some sort of reality. And I'll be talking you through what we're doing, and then later I'll hand over to Paolo, who can give you his perspective on what we've been doing. So let me move on. Here we go. So the challenge, I guess, as we see it, is that when universities are trying to figure out what is the impact, well, one question is, where is the impact? How do I find the impact? That's one challenge. The other challenge is, once I've found that impact, how do I piece it together and put it together in a meaningful way to tell a story? Because fundamentally, that's what we are. We're storytellers, and while we love data and we can see tables of data and we can see charts and so on, fundamentally, what we like to do is communicate and speak to each other. And when I approached this challenge, I kind of thought of it from the perspective of two people sitting in a coffee shop, exchanging ideas, and one guy saying, hey, this is my research, this is what I've done, and the other person understands that impact because they hear the stories. And so if you think about it, you know, you've got lots of data, you've got to try and pull that together. Can AI help with that? If you're not telling your full institutional story, is there an opportunity cost there, right? And if you're not telling your full story, what's the risk to reputation as well? Because we all know the challenges that universities are facing right now. Max mentioned this morning the idea of the social license as well. And so, let's move on a little bit. What we did was we focused on how do people currently talk about impact. And I think anyone from the UK is familiar with sort of what you might call the established foundation, the idea of talking about academic significance and reach. Like how excellent is that research and what communities have you managed to communicate that to? But actually, if you think about how people speak, I always think about my mum. If I'm telling my mum about my H-index or the field-weighted citation impact, I mean, she'll stare at me like I'm, you know, an imbecile. But if I can tell her stories about the communities we've talked to, the applicable technologies that we've managed to generate through the research, maybe talk about the communities I engage with and I collaborated with and how cool my research is. If I talk about that in human terms, she gets it. And really, if you think about this, you know, from Tallahassee to Tokyo, from London to Lima, from Sydney to Seville, this is how human beings talk. They actually communicate in these terms. And so we expanded the original, if you like, established foundation, and we started looking at how you describe research from the perspective of these different characteristics, regardless of whether there's already an impact framework in place, regardless of whether the university or the funding agency has set a set of success criteria, you know, whether it's capacity building or knowledge exchange or whatever. Yet you still have to communicate that, and this framework seems to resonate globally. So this has been built into a system. You might have seen this chart this morning on Judy's presentation. We use generative AI to pull together data from a number of sources, pure being, if you like, the self-reported data. And we know from talking to many universities that if you're talking about an impact story, 70% of that data comes from data that's internal to the university. And I should be just clear that some data in the university pure system might be classed as sensitive. And that's okay, because we built that in as a safety mechanism, if you like, a responsible mechanism, so that you can configure what kind of data is reported and sent to the large language model. But we augment it with data from trusted sources. We augment it, you know, with Scopus data, with activity data such as news mentions and social media engagement from Plum. We look at patent databases, we look at policy citations and so on. And all of that is brought together and presented through the, if you like, the lens of those human language characteristics. And we tell a story. We've done this, I say, not by ourselves. We did it in collaboration with, and here's just some of the early partners we work with, but really we looked as far as we could all over the world. We looked at countries where impact was very advanced in its thinking and countries where impact wasn't very advanced in its thinking. And we found that this idea resonated extremely strongly. I think I'm now going to hand over to Paolo, who's got first-hand experience of this, and he can give you the honest opinion. Thank you.
Technology is an enabler. Thank you so much, Sean. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be among friends. I consider this event as a follow-up on a fantastic event in Milan organized by Angelisa Cave and all our friends in Elsevier, when we spoke about tomorrow, today in research. And I'm happy to share a selection of 95 slides. I showed somebody drop dead in the meeting last time, so I will try to be less lethal. But the idea is to understand that, at least in our vision, being able to make impact a reality is not a matter of technology. We are not a technology campus. The Milan campus of Catholic University is mostly about the social sciences and humanities, but Catholic University itself is scattered across Italy. We have 5 campuses, and we have also a large hospital. You may know Policlinico Gemelli, the Pope Hospital. So the idea was to find out a framework which was able to fit all the different needs from different epistemic community. I guess that epistemic is the key for understanding what we are doing, because my background is a cataloger, maybe a library director, but mostly people in love with knowledge. So the idea is to be able to show how we try, at least, to collect data and to turn it into impact. In my understanding, the first and most important part is about knowledge transfer and consilience. We understand the term consilience, which is a Latin term, which stands for jumping together, to be able to show how knowledge is interconnected and how we need to show this interconnection, because we live in a world where people engage and make community by speaking. So the idea is to find out a role for the library in the community ecosystem. We are not academics, we are not researchers, but we are part of a community. So which is the role, the changing role of our library community professional in comparison with our parts? We are not technology. I am not a technology myself, but I deal with technology. I am not a researcher. So which is the role, the role of a library, of library people? I guess that building projects like Digital Commons Data, IRIS, which is the code name of our institutional publication repository based on DSpace, and mostly in the new solution like Pure Impact and the upcoming Data Lake. I guess that library professionals are at the very heart of interoperability and of people. So we are people connecting. That's why it's so important understanding that this is a journey we are making for people, for being able to show. I like very much your example, how to explain my H-index to my grandmother. I guess that she should have killed me, myself. My H-index is really no, but I know that H-index of Albert Einstein would be 3. So I am a good comparison. So the idea is to show that the framework and the technology and the governance rule are able to show what people are doing. But the real meaning of our job is when we deal with real research. That's why we came when the rubber meets the road, say the Englishman. So we sent to an handful of researchers the first results of the Impact AI solution. And the response was, wow, that's really something different that we ever seen before. So the idea is not building the machine conceived by geniuses to be used by idiots, but to give an infrastructure which is able to make people aware of what we are doing. We are, for example, dealing with Professor Andrea Gaggioli, who is an eminent psychologist in Italy and an expert of user experience. And he said us, it's very interesting because myself, I understood that there are parts of my research which, in my understanding, were not so important because I feel myself part of a particular community of user experience experts. But you are remembering my work in 2020 about COVID. So what's the reason? Because sometimes the idea that the researcher itself has about its own research is different from the community, the public image. I guess that what we are doing with our friend in Elsevier is to discovering new ways of showing the whole image of a researcher, which this does not mean that the solution now is perfect, or that we should aim to have, again, the perfect solution for the perfect idiot. I guess that the rationale behind this kind of AI solution is to enhance the ability of the people of better thinking. So, in a nutshell, I don't think that AI-based solution like Impact AI and all other large language model could be built upon the idea that we are going to be more effective. I think that this kind of solution will make us more efficient. So it will be able to make us save time. It's like a dishwasher. What we are doing to do with the time we are saving by using the dishwasher is not making you an author of literature. But if you can choose what you are doing, probably you will find that solution like one we are implementing is able to give you more time for having ideas. I guess that this should be the promise of artificial intelligence. A junior assistant helping us in better understanding what we are doing and let the machine do the low-level work. I guess that by continuing to implement new functionalities, we, as library professionals and the community, the academic community, will be able to have more time for being very creative. That's the promise and the commitment that the library is doing toward our patrons. Thank you.